It is great to welcome to the program today Jagmeet Singh, leader of the New Democratic Party in the Canadian House of Commons. It's so great to have you on. You know, that just yesterday I was watching now President Donald Trump say that February 1st is the day where this 25% tariff is going to be placed on imports to the United States from both Canada and Mexico. Of course, acknowledging that the Liberal Party, the Conservative Party may have different views on this. You, as someone in the New Democratic Party, what is your view on the protectionist idea of a 25% tariff starting in just a couple of weeks, really? And how would you like to see Canada react to such a tariff if indeed it happens?
Right. I'd start off with we've long really held this important belief that Canada and America, we are incredible neighbors. We have had a very long history of cooperation, one of the longest, in a lot of ways, undefended border. We have such a interconnected economy. We are so culturally and in so many ways just so connected. And so what Donald Trump is proposing to do is an attack, I think, on that relationship, and it's divisive. It's very divisive. It also inherently is harmful to his decision is harmful to Canadians and Americans. There's so many workers in America that have jobs that depend on goods moving back and forth over the border. Things get refined in one side, values added, then it comes over to the other side and it goes back and forth a couple of times before the product is completed. So inherently, it is already going to be harmful for both Americans and Canadians. It is a bad decision. And so the response that I want is a response to show strength to Donald Trump. Donald Trump has often shown the characteristics of a bully, and bullies only understand strength. So we have to stand up to him and let him know that we're not going to back down. But we also have to appeal to our allies and to our friends in the States and say, this is a bad decision for both sides of the border and for workers on both sides of the border.
Does that mean yes on a retaliatory tariff?
Yeah, I've said that we've got to do retaliatory tariffs. It's not something we want. Like, we don't want a trade war. It is the last thing that we need right now. In America, I know it's very similar to what's going on in Canada. The cost of living is a big pressure point. People are feeling really squeezed. It's hard to be able to make ends meet, buying groceries, paying the bills, housing. Everything is so expensive. A trade war is just going to make things more expensive. So that's bad news. It's a bad thing. But the harm is so serious that the only thing we can do is retaliate so that we can shorten how long this goes for. If we sit back and just do nothing, it's going to be a massive loss of jobs. It's going to hurt, like I said, workers on both sides of the border. So we have to respond to make sure it's felt that we are ready to fight back. We're not going to just accept this, and with the ultimate goal of stopping these tariffs before they happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's based on just it's uncontroversial economic analysis when you look at the list of goods that the US imports from Canada, that if you put a 25% tariff on them, things are going to be more expensive, not only at the grocery store, but elsewhere. It's not really a complicated economic analysis. If we zoom out a little bit and you think of the recent exchanges, including at a meeting that took place between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and then President-elect Trump in Florida, and sort of jockeying about economic pressure on Canada, if not military, which Donald Trump, I think in his kind of strange way of speaking, he did say economic but not military pressure, and this 51st state sort of stuff. You, as someone who is in the New Democratic Party, not of Justin Trudeau's party, what was your interpretation of that jockeying that took place?
Well, I thought it was very serious. I thought that type of threat is not something that you do. It's not how countries talk to each other. It sounded like the behavior of an internet troll rather than a president-elect. And I thought it was unbecoming of a president. I thought it was inappropriate. Like I said, we've got a long history of cooperation, of being good neighbors, of looking out for one another, and this is an insult to that. And ultimately, I said that's not what we want. We are proud of who we are. We are proud to be Canadians, and we do not want to give that up. We want to defend what we have. We've got a healthcare system that means that anyone can go into the best hospital in the country. You can go to Sick Kids Canada in Toronto. Sick Kids is one of the best hospitals in the world. And no matter who your parents are, they could be working class, uh, they could be parents that have lots of wealth. They're both going to get the best quality, world-class care. Those kids are going to be looked after. You're not going to go into bankruptcy because you've been diagnosed with an illness. You're going to get the care you need. We're proud of that. That's something that we hold to high esteem, and so we are proud of who we are, and we do not uh, want to give that up in any way.
I'd love to dig in a little bit to the topic of healthcare because this is one of the areas where my views have sort of evolved over time. I used to be sort of uniquely like a Medicare for all type person, where the ideal would be we take the Medicare system we have in the US for 65 plus and we slowly expand it. You go 60 plus, 55 plus, et cetera. You sort of phase in participants as you phase in funding. Studying healthcare systems around the world more, I think maybe I've developed a little bit more of a view that I'm agnostic as to the way in which we approach it. And there are many systems that work well. In some countries, you see combinations of public-private systems. Singapore has a system that in its own way has worked well, not for everybody always, but for certainly more people than in the United States, I would say. The Canadian system has been interesting to me for a long time, and I want to get your reaction to a couple of the things I believe I've learned about the system. And if I'm just wrong in my understanding, I'm sure you'll tell me. One of the things is that while the Canadian system seems very well equipped when it comes to emergency care, for things that are important but not emergencies, I know of folks who live in Canada who opt to come to the United States because of lower wait times. I'd love to hear you tell me about whether that's true and whether you think it's a deficit in any way. The other thing is, as we were talking about before, my sister currently lives in Canada, and one of the things she struggled with was just getting a sort of normal, what we call a primary care visit in the United States. I don't know the equivalent name in Canada. She found it very difficult because she was not on the roster of any primary care doctor, and no doctor she could find had an open roster. And so she was relegated to the urgent care or emergency room system. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about that. And my understanding is no system is perfect, but many are better than what we have in the United States.
Yeah, so fundamentally, the principle in Canada is you can go into a doctor's office, you can go into the hospital, and you walk out with no bill. And that's the kind of hallmark of the. I had a really bad knee injury and an ACL complete tear, and I got my full ACL repair, and I'm back at doing martial arts. I'm snowboarding. My knee is in great shape. Like world-class care was given. Now it did take some time though, so
Mm.
the wait times are longer. That is a concern, and that is something that we've got to fix. A big part of what's going on in Canada is that we have a lot of conservative premiers, which is like a governor, and they have been actively eroding the healthcare system purposefully.
Mm.
And what is happening is they are underfunding the program, and then they say, "Oh, look, it's not working." Well, it's obviously not working if you underfund it. The other thing that a lot of conservative premiers are doing is that they are introducing private care. So there's not enough healthcare workers to provide the timely care that people need. So if you need something, like you mentioned, if you need one of the common examples is like a knee replacement for seniors or a hip replacement, which is a lot of pain that seniors are in, but it's not life threatening. It is quality of life impacting, but not life threatening. And so those wait times are quite long. They'll be multi months. And so people are waiting for months and months. And so what they've introduced is you could pay some money and get quicker care.
Mm.
Now, what happens is then to provide that quote unquote quicker care, you've got to pull the nurses, pull the doctors out of the public system into
Right.
this private system to provide that quote unquote quicker care. But then you've just starved the public system, and then that wait time gets even longer. And then say,
You're
oh, look,
slowing it down for someone who can't pay effectively.
exactly. And so it is obviously then going to get worse if you make it worse. And so this is the kind of the logical fallacy. Conservatives are like, oh, look, we got a problem, we got to fix it. Well, you broke it. So it's not like you're an innocent bystander to watching something happen. You break something, and I guess coincidentally, it's broken. Like it's kind of going to follow. And so that's what's happening more and more. So there are some complicated things about healthcare, but there is one simple thing. It's underfunded and understaffed. And if we properly staffed up the healthcare system, it would be better. The point that your sister made is very fair. There is a big shortage of family doctors. We call the primary care a family doctor.
Yep.
But that primary care visit or that family doctor is something that is a challenge as well. Similarly, we don't have enough family doctors for the population. So these are things that we can address, but the threat is people saying that, oh, we just need to create an option for people to pay as the solution, and all that's going to do is set up a two-tier system. You pay, you can get care, and you can't pay, you don't get care, which is going to push us down to a path where we end up with a very bad system that's very costly and works only for the richest and is abysmal for everyone else. And that is, to us, we're the party that actually founded the universal healthcare system. It was a premier or a governor, the first leader of our party, that started it in one province or state and then brought it to the federal level, to the national level. So we are intrinsically tied to this healthcare system. I believe in it. My family personally, I think of the example of my dad, who is a physician, is a specialist, but lost his license, lost his ability to practice because of an addiction that he was suffering, and had no money. And the only place that he was able to get care was a publicly funded rehab center that was available, that had a bed at that moment when my dad decided that he needed to get care. And we were lucky that that was available. So I believe in public care so much, because if it wasn't for that publicly funded space, my dad wouldn't have got the care, wouldn't have gotten better. And now he's again practicing with a very big practice in psychiatry, helping. He's got thousands of patients on his roster, and he provides excellent care to them. He would not have been able to do that but for a publicly funded rehab center that was available, that he could go to at a time when he had no money and wasn't able to afford a private center. So I really believe in the public option being there and being strong. And I am opposed to a two-tier system. I know that it just means the public system gets starved, and it's
Yes.
worse for people.
I want to zoom out a little bit in the time we have left and talk a little bit about the New Democratic Party kind of in the context of Canadian Parliament. If I have the numbers correct, right now your party has 25 of the 338 seats in Parliament. Am I right on that basic number? I am.
Correct.
Okay. So a few people wrote to me when they learned we were going to be speaking, and knowing that I am not an accelerationist in my political philosophy, my idea being rarely does breaking down the entire system help us to more quickly improve it. It often creates a vacuum where even worse actors end up swooping in moments of vulnerability, etc. Some folks wrote to me and said, you guys should really talk about whether Jagmeet's views are accelerationist, because a few people said they think you would rather see the Liberal Party lose, even if it means the Conservatives have more power, even though on a political spectrum, I think you're closer to the Liberal Party than the Conservative Party. Can you talk a little bit about the dynamics of this? Because this is a dynamic we also have in the United States, sometimes with the Green Party or people who say the Democratic Party isn't left enough. Do you consider yourself an accelerationist? Is everything to your right equally bad in a sense?
Well, we just know that the history of our country is one where when there are more New Democrats elected, uh, great things happen for people. If you think of all of our social safety nets in Canada came when folks voted for more New Democrats. So I just kind of look at it just evidence-based. We were able to bring in healthcare when there were enough New Democrats elected in Parliament to push the government to make that happen. Our employment insurance, which is if workers lose their job, there is a program that people can access that gives them income while they're finding their next job. That was brought in by New Democrats. The pension program we have for seniors. So all seniors in Canada get a pension. That was brought in by the NDP, by the New Democrats being in power. Right now, I was able to bring in a dental care program that has covered seniors and kids. And so we're about 40 million people. Over 1.2 million people have received dental care from this dental program that covers a dentist visit. And because we fought to make that happen, we brought in better labor protection laws because we were elected. Just 25 of us in a minority government were able to do that. So my real focus is uh, I know concretely, based on historic evidence and my own lived experience, when more New Democrats are elected, it is better for working people. It's better for Canadians. They get more. They have someone that's focused on them. The Liberals have been a party that doesn't really have a clear identity. In a lot of ways, they kind of move, and depending on their leader, they can be very right wing. Sometimes they can be more centrist. So they're not clearly one party. It's hard to describe their value system in a way that really is clear, because they will say, for example, they believe in public health care, but they won't actually do anything to defend it. So I don't know how that really benefits people that want to see public health care defended. If someone says it's good, which is nice to hear, but they don't actually use the powers that we have to defend it and to prevent conservative premiers that want to erode it. So that's kind of my analysis of that. Is
That I understand, but I guess my question to maybe restate it is, there are some Green Party folks in the US who said in 2016, Trump, Hillary, they're both part of the neoliberal order. I kind of don't really care. Maybe Trump's worse, but like if he messes stuff up, it'll allow us to swoop in more quickly or in a stronger way. Whereas other Green Party folks said, listen, I'm to the left of Hillary and Trump, but I recognize Trump is way worse. And so in swing states, I'm going to vote for Hillary. Are you more partial in Canada's equivalent to that first idea or to the latter I mentioned?
hmm. Well, I just want people to, I mean, I guess it's harder. It's a harder analogy because in the Green Party, they've never elected any significant number of seats. They have not formed government in a state.
The
In
Green Party in the US, you mean? Yes, that's true.
Yeah, yeah. So they haven't formed. So it's a in the case of New Democrats right now, um, two provinces are governed by the New Democratic Party. Um, all of the major provinces, the biggest population centers, minus Quebec, have had New Democrats in power as governors or premiers. We are official opposition in many provinces across the country. So we're a sizable party that has won political power in a real way and has then shown the benefit to working class people. So
Right. And this is one of the problems. It's not analogous because we don't have a parliamentary system. And that's absolutely a fair distinction, I think.
yeah, yeah. And then in addition, when more seats, when more of us are elected, like in this minority government, we were the ones that were the bulwarks against decisions that would have hurt people. Like if because more of us were elected, we were able to bring in like a very strong workers' protection law that prevents when workers go on strike, replacement workers to come in and undermine that strike. We were able to bring in this law that has been decades in the making. The labor movement's been fighting for decades. We made that happen because we were in this position. So because the parliamentary system and because New Democrats have actually been elected in large numbers in provinces across the country, it's not a similar argument. I would, though, just to kind of like, I think very clearly Trump is and would be worse than someone like Hillary Clinton. I think that is undeniable. So I would not ignore that reality. I think it's clear his lack of principles and decision making that's going to benefit billionaires and hurt the working class. All those things are very obvious and evident.
We've been speaking with the leader of the New Democratic Party in the Canadian House of Commons, Jagmeet Singh. Really appreciate your time and your insights today.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you. Thanks for all the great work you do.